Yo guys, this is episode 1 of filming tips, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to use your shutter speeds properly and how to get different effects with different shutter speeds. So check it out. So you probably already know what shutter speeds are, but a quick rundown is basically how long each frame in your footage is exposed to light. An example of a fast shutter speed would be 1/2000th, and an example of a slower shutter speed would be 1/30th. For a faster shutter speed, the shutter is open for way less time, so that means it lets less light in, so your image will overall be a bit darker. For a slower shutter speed, the shutter's open for much longer, which means you get more light let in and your image is brighter. So this is why this is important when you're filming. The standard frame rate used in movies is 24 frames a second, or sometimes 25. I personally use 30 frames a second, but the standard rule that we use is that you have to double your frame rate to set your shutter speed. So for example, if we're using 30 frames a second, you're going to want to have your shutter speed at 1/60th of a second, and I'll show you why. When I'm panning on a shutter speed of 1/1000th, you can see that the footage is way sharper. There's no motion blur whatsoever, which actually looks really weird if you're trying to make your footage look natural. And then if we compare this to the 1/60th shutter speed that I use, you can see that you get a really nice motion blur when you're panning along. This is basically the main reason you're going to want to use double your frame rate for your shutter speeds. As you saw there, when we're on a faster shutter speed, there's no motion blur whatsoever, but when we're on slower ones, it gives you that motion blur, which gives you that natural look to your footage, which is actually what you want to go for. One thing that having a too fast shutter speed can do is that you can't do these sick transitions where you pan one way and then you end up somewhere else. See, when we've got a shutter speed that's slow like this, we can do them sick transitions. Now I'm in 30 frames a second and I'm in 1/30th of a second shutter speed, and as you can see, the motion blur is a bit much, and this is why you don't want to have it too low either. But a good benefit of this is that you can do random panning things, and you can slot that between two different clips, and you get these really good transitions that you probably won't even notice the transitions, to be honest. It just looks like one fluid clip. So that's probably one use of where you want to have your shutter speed a bit too slow. One way a fast shutter speed can actually be really useful is if you're shooting an action movie. This can give you the effect known as the Saving Private Ryan look. I'll show you a quick clip of this film so you can see what I mean. Everything's quite in focus, everything's sharp. When things explode, you can actually see what's going on. There's no motion blur. It gives you this sort of jittery feel to the clip, which actually makes you feel more like you're in the action. One last thing, if you're in the middle of shooting and you realise you've been filming in a way too high shutter speed, don't worry, there are ways that you can fake motion blur. I use After Effects to do this. You can use plugins like Real Smart Motion Blur, or you can use Force Motion Blur, which is on After Effects already. It will give you the motion blur that you need and it will look natural, so don't worry if you're filming too high. If you're filming too low, I can't help you there, but it probably wouldn't look that bad anyway, to be honest. It would just mean you get more motion blur than necessary. So that's the end of this little filming how-to. Tell me if you liked it. If you don't, I probably won't make any more, but yeah, just thought I'd pass on my knowledge to everyone. So if you want to make your own videos, you can make it look half decent. Not saying I'm a pro or anything, but I mean, I know something about cameras. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one.